Our final speaker today is Joe Hashman, who joined the Hunt Saboteurs Association in 1982. He worked for the League Against Cruel Sports and since 2006 has remained part of the IFAW enforcement team. Integral to many groundbreaking investigations, exposés and prosecutions, Hashman has also defended his anti-hunting beliefs successfully in the European Court of Human Rights and various domestic legal arenas. He is the founder of Hounds Off. Welcome, Joe. Over to you.
I'm going to read mine. Thank you very much, by the way. So I understand that hunting with hounds stirs emotions in people that run deep. And I also understand that humans are complicated creatures. Although we have domesticated ourselves in many ways, wild animal instincts lie close to the surface within us all. And I also completely get it that we're all motivated by different things. Hunting with hounds stirs emotions in people in different ways and on different levels. For some it's a thrilling recreation. For others, the whole concept of hunting with hounds is no more than an excuse for animal abuse. My mother was a badminton player of some repute long before professionals and money entered that sport, and one of her prizes was a tea tray that hung above our fridge. It had fancy wooden edges and depicted a colourful hunting scene, and it was the picture on the tray as a child that fascinated me. Mounted riders stood in a semicircle around a pond, all looking down at hounds, and a dismounted redcoat who held in one hand a flashing blade and in the other, by the tail, the slightly curled body of a fox. In this painted picture, one of the gentlemen on horseback was leaning forward and doffing his cap. My eureka moment was during a TV show called Nanny. The main character was looking after a boy who went out on his first hunt. When the fox was killed, its tail was cut off and the bloody end was smeared on the boy's face. It shocked me. I was only a kid, and I asked my mum if such things happened in real life, and she confirmed that yes, they do. Thus, I made, as a young boy, the connection between the blooding ritual portrayed on telly and the sporting art above my fridge. On the first hunt I attended, two foxes mysteriously appeared from the same field corner where terrier men were gathered and digging. Hunters unleashed their pack of hounds on the second fox. I ran with others into the fray, screaming and shouting at the hunt to stop. I'm a hunt saboteur. Later investigations revealed an artificial fox earth at the location, at Upper Circuit Farm, Benchworth, near Wantage in Oxfordshire. The artificial earth was constructed as advised and described in famous hunting literature. It was clear to me that the foxes I saw flushed for the hounds to chase in 1982 had been loaded by hunt servants in advance to provide Boxing Day sport. Over 22 years later, a minor miracle happened when the Hunting Act became law. The cruel and abusive nature of fox hunting and related blood sports had been exposed repeatedly and beyond doubt. The majority Labour government acknowledged the will of the people by legislating against it, and that should have been an end to the matter. Enough scope was built into the legislation to provide for non-live animal hunting to continue, and therefore all the pomp and ceremony, but unfortunately much surrounding the Hunting Act has been confused ever since. I say ever since. Actually, confusion has reigned for much longer than that. The Hunting Act should have been a clear and straightforward piece of legislation to enforce. Alas, during the journey through Parliament to statute book, it suffered constant tactical tinkering by pro-hunt forces. And now, although the spirit of the law is clear, its application can be problematic. A combination of cynical subterfuge, false alibis, legal loopholes, and institutionalised reluctance from the law enforcement agencies to engage with the Hunting Act ensures that wildlife is still illegally hunted and killed for amusement. When it was revealed 2 months ago that David Cameron himself had personally intervened in stopping a Hunting Act case during 2008, I wasn't surprised. He's part of the untin minority which refuses to accept the will of the people and is unashamedly committed to repealing a law that they hate. In July this year, with a Conservative Party promise to repeal the Hunting Act yet to be kept, with a majority of Tory MPs in the Commons at last, and with nearly 7 weeks of summer holidays just days away, cunning and crippling amendments were introduced by something called a statutory instrument. Although technically doing nothing wrong, I believe the intention was to circumvent due process and fast-track amendments to the Hunting Act, which would have completely castrated it. If passed, these amendments would have amounted to no more than repeal by the back door. And I strongly suspect that the Countryside Alliance was in cahoots with pro-Hunt government forces in the drafting of the amendments and the way they were marketed as a minor change to bring English law into line with Scotland. Actually, there isn't time to go into it here, but the amendments proposed far more than that. But Hunt supporters underestimated how much most people still dislike ritualised animal abuse. If they thought they could undermine the Hunting Act and democracy quietly, unnoticed, and with little resistance, they were spectacularly wrong. Millions of people in the course of 7 days in July roared their disapproval and lobbied their MPs. The masses spoke, wrote, tweeted, retweeted, shared, liked, favourited, pinned, posted, demonstrated, reported, advertised, sang, shouted and dreamed about defeating these amendments and the dark forces behind them. And the key to saving the Hunting Act remains MP support. It's been claimed that the Scottish National Party scuppered the amendments, but that's not wholly true. The fact is that an irresistible coalition was built which consisted of MPs from across political parties and from all the home nations who were committed to protecting the law. So, with the writing on the wall, the amendments were withdrawn a day before voting. And this was just a tactical move by the Hunt lobby to allow for regrouping and future reintroduction. And, again, crucially, to avoid what would have been pretty conclusive final defeat and put the matter to bed. So why do most people hate hunting with hounds? Hunt supporters and their representatives love to accuse people who are against blood sports of being driven by prejudice, class war, hatred of people or any other mud they can sling. I would say that, without doubt, folk are sick of being obstructed on the roads by arrogant riders, of having their property invaded, their pets killed and livestock worried by out-of-control hounds. People are fed up with seeing beauty spots and ancient monuments trashed by inconsiderate Hunt followers, of blatant criminal behaviour by Hunts who have been sticking 2 fingers up at the rest of us for over a decade. But actually, what most people object to is very simple. We object to animal cruelty, the practice of chasing wild mammals with dogs until they're physically incapable of outrunning the pack and then killing them in various different, cruel and unnatural ways. The British Field Sports Society was formed in 1930 to, quote, keep watch on all legislation which might adversely affect field sports. And the clue to the real reason why most people go hunting is in the name field sports. It's fun. They love it. It's the thrill of the chase. So, in 1997, the British Field Sports Society rebranded itself as the Countryside Alliance, a more user-friendly name, slicker, snazzier, more ambiguous, a name which disguises killing for fun. In reality, fox hunting is premeditated and ritualised. I call it animal abuse. Foxes are frequently bred for hunting. They're given a head start at the beginning to ensure good sport. Hounds are bred deliberately to run slower than a fresh fox and thus prolong the chase. And the followers on horseback, foot and car all combine to keep tabs on their fox. Holes are blocked, so they keep the fox on top and running. And if he does get down a hole, the agony is usually far from over, and we've seen that today. The Oldswater hunt in Cumbria wrote a report in the local paper detailing a 1996 hunt where the same fox was chased to ground and then forced to run 4 times in succession before being killed, or as they say in their report, accounted for. Lake District hunts always claim that pest control is their reason to be, And I just ask you, I ask them, if this is true, why did they prolong the fox's agony? Do you think the hunters enjoyed themselves? Beagling is hare hunting. This quote from the Horse and Hound magazine of November the 7th, 1980, illustrates that a quick, clean kill is not the hare hunter's preferred option either. Here it is. It's probably better to have a good hunt of an hour or 90 minutes rather than overmatch the hare and pull her down in 20 minutes. Numerous times over the years, I've seen so-called good hunts and well-hunted hares. They're stiff-legged and hunched, a far cry from the coiled spring of muscle and heart which characterises these handsome fields of the beasts of the field, and when they're not being relentlessly hounded under pain of death. And hares cry like babies when being torn apart by hounds, but beaglers won't tell you that. Listen to this from Hounds magazine, April 1990. North Staffordshire Moorland Beagles. Hounds have never run so fast. It took a good 3 hours to roll their hare. Clever she was too. Ran along a disused railway, the hedge of an extremely busy road, through sheep and plough, only to meet her end, quote, while nesting in long grass. Often hares elude the beaglers only to be betrayed by the people who enjoy an active role in this game of life and death. In a quote from the same edition of Hounds magazine, Fresh Find described the hunted hare that has escaped from the Pedency marsh beagles, but is spotted afterwards by hunt followers who put the dogs back on. Here it is. Useful information helped them to fresh find the hare and kill near Church Farm Ditch at 5:10. That's a hare that has escaped. Hounds magazine of November 1988 reported on the Britannia Beagles and Colne Valley Beagles hunting the same area morning then afternoon. The report details the Britannia failing to kill, but, quote, leaving several tired hares which the Colne Valley set about in the afternoon. And according to Hounds magazine, 2 of these hares were then hunted and killed, and much fun was had by all. Deer hunting is a particularly cruel affair. In the West Country, I've seen stags escape hounds, but not the army of followers who are determined to prevent their quarry resting, and they betray its whereabouts at every opportunity with whistles and shouts. I've seen the look of fear in a hunted stag's eyes as he turns his head left and right at a road lined with cars, wondering which way to run with the hounds in cry behind. Stags have big, emotional eyes. God knows, I've borne witness to the end of stag hunts and the almost orgasmic frenzy which unites the human mob on foot and horseback. When a once proud beast is beaten and bewildered, standing at bay in a pond or river, waiting to be savaged by the hounds, wrestled to the ground by hunters, or shot, sometimes all 3 in that order. In 1996, I tracked a stag on the Quantocks who was chased until it lay exhausted in some heather. You can see this on YouTube. Only its antlers were visible. Riders and hounds stood back. The huntsman dismounted and crept forward to get as close as he could. He took a shot which was clearly botched because the wounded stag jumped up and ran on, leaving a trail of blood from heather to woodland and then deep into the trees before being accounted for with another point-blank shot. I was there with others during that time that Professor Bateson conducted his ultimately damning research into the welfare of hunted deer. Hunting with hounds is a blood sport which reduces a noble beast to a weak and pathetic remnant. Without an ology, with just our eyes and instinct, we knew that Bateson would reveal that hunting causes, quote, unnatural suffering which is severe and extreme, even for those that get away. Fallow deer buck were hunted in the New Forest for at least 900 years before a halt was called in 1997. So how did that come about? In 1991, a group of hunt saboteurs decided to dedicate attention on the New Forest buckhounds. We used non-violent direct action tactics to stop them from killing and hunting and killing deer, and initially it worked. Fewer kills were made, but after a season or so, we noticed that hunters' behaviour changed. Large numbers of people were drafted in to obstruct us, and meanwhile the hunters resorted to what I can only describe as cowboy tactics, and they started to kill more deer. 2 of us scratched our heads, and we decided to put down our sabotage equipment of scent dulling sprays, whips and hunting horns, and we purchased video cameras. For 4 seasons, we literally ran with the hounds, and we filmed exactly what happened without any intervention from us. And our evidence was groundbreaking. We filmed gruelling chases in the New Forest of 5 hours or more, exhausted buck being wrestled and held underwater by huntsmen while they waited for the gun, and crucially, we exposed the oft-repeated lie that a deer at bay never gets bitten by hounds. I forget how many times we filmed buck being savaged while the hunters played catch-up. You saw a bit during Tony's presentation. We worked with other anti-hunting groups and took our evidence to the streets via stalls and information day, and we engaged the media outlets of those faraway times, TV, radio and newspapers. Coverage of the New Forest buckhounds atrocities did go national. We attended virtually every hunt during the mid-90s. We were relentless in our creative campaigning. For instance, we stood with banners every Monday and Friday on Cadnam Roundabout in the rush hour to inform the public what was going on in the New Forest, mostly hidden from view on those days. The Forestry Commission, over whose land the buckhounds hunted under licence, suspended them occasionally when we proved the terms of their licence had been breached. We looked to the Commission to withdraw the licence altogether, and in this respect we owe a massive debt of thanks to John Denham MP. He was a terrific ally. Then, in July 1997, with the Bateson report pending, Labour in power, the public up in arms, and hunting looking vulnerable, the New Forest buckhounds disbanded. And this preceded a decision by the Forestry Commission 4 months later not to issue any licences for deer hunting on its land. Now, to me, the buckhound saga illustrates the power which normal people like us have to effect positive change, and also the importance to hunting of having land to tally-ho over. Hounds Off was born in 2010 in order to support landowners affected by hunt trespass and to help anyone who wants to ban hunting, illegal or otherwise, from their property. And we're following in the footsteps of the League Against Cruel Sports, who started purchasing sanctuary land in the West Country in the 1950s, and numerous landowners who, over the last decade or more, century or more, have forbidden hunting with hounds. Our team knows that regardless of legislation, without country to ride or run over, hunting with hounds is doomed. We're under no illusions. The minority landowning establishment is powerful and rich, but we believe that www.houndsoff.co.uk is providing the tools and support which ordinary people need to make wildlife sanctuaries of their gardens, paddocks, small holdings, farms and estates. So all over the country, today, tomorrow and in the future, while politicians politicise and pressure groups pressurise, Hounds Off is empowering the compassionate majority to make a practical and peaceful anti-hunting stand. Please visit our website and engage with us on social media. Thank you.